Howdy again everyone, it's me, the Bob Ross of photography videos, and this time I'll be testing the living daylights out of something really spectacular for you, which I never expected to get my hands on, the new Canon RF 1200mm f8 L IS USM. I'd like to thank Canon UK for very kindly loaning me a copy of this lens for a few weeks, as well as an EOS R3 camera to test it on, although as usual this is a totally independent review. This, I believe, is the longest telephoto full-frame lens commercially available today, and as for its price, well, which number sounds more intimidating to you, 1200mm or $20,000? For a top professional wildlife or sports photographer or affluent hobbyist, any amount of money will be worth getting as far as this telephoto lens can reach. For an average Joe like me, the price is borderline ridiculous, but then again, hiring it out for special uses might be a possibility. Let's start by getting a handle on just how ridiculously tight an angle of 1200mm really is. Here's some footage at 24mm on a full-frame camera. See that tiny flag in the distance? Well, here it is at 1200mm. This tight angle of view is absolutely incredible, but not always easy to use. As you can see from this footage, even if a tree full of birds is right next to you, trying to find your subject at 1200mm can be really tricky, to say the least. It's much easier if your subject is a bit further away, which thankfully it can be when you're shooting at a focal length like this, when all kinds of possibilities are thrown wide open to you. Here are some more pictures to demonstrate the extreme reach of this lens. The lens's maximum aperture of f8 might not sound that impressive, but that's still enough light with modern autofocus systems and decent quality high ISO noise levels to make the lens perfectly usable, although I'm not sure if it'll be quite enough for stopping action in sports photography, at least not easily. Besides, any brighter than this, and the lens would have had to be even bigger than it already is. I'll be honest, when I first laid eyes on this thing, I didn't know who to call first, the insurance company or a personal fitness trainer. In the end, I just arranged the insurance, my wife called the fitness trainer, but actually on picking it up, I found its weight of 3.3 kilograms to be quite manageable for handheld photography, although perhaps not for prolonged periods of time. Sometimes I had to keep reminding myself that I really was holding a 1200mm lens in my hands. The announcement of this lens caused some concern for the geekier lens enthusiasts out there, because Canon were open about this lens basically being one of their new RF 600mm f4 lenses, but with a customized 2x extender built into the back of it. As some of you might know, 2x extenders are well known for causing huge image quality problems for even the sharpest of camera lenses. However, it's worth bearing in mind here that the extension optics at the back of the lens really are custom made just for this exact lens, meaning that they can be far more effective, much sharper, and early reviews of its image quality demonstrated that it is far sharper than what you'd normally expect from a 600mm optic with a regular extender at the rear. Well, we'll take a look at the lens's image quality in a moment. Let's take a closer look at the lens itself first. As I mentioned, the lens is perfectly hand-holdable for short periods of time, but using a good quality tripod will be advantageous if you don't have very strong arms. It is advertised as being extensively weather-sealed. The front and rear elements are fluorine coated, making them much easier to clean should anything get onto them. There are a whole bunch of focus controls at the back of the lens. You can switch it between autofocus, manual focus and power focus mode. The power focus is for slow focusing during video work. Gently turn the focus preset ring at the front to control it. You can also preset your focus, which some people find pretty useful for wildlife photography, and you can control the manual focus speed too, if you like. Let's take a look at the lens's autofocus in action. As expected, it truly is lightning fast on a Canon EOS R3 camera, as it was on my R5 camera too, and it also focused very accurately, I'm glad to say. Shooting animals with the camera's animal eye detection mode was particularly awesome. I was amazed that the EOS R3 camera was able to get this shot of a starling's eyes, where so many other cameras might get fooled by the branches in the foreground. There's a slot in the back for Canon's standard drop-in filters. And then, in front of that, comes the large manual focus ring, which turns extremely smoothly and works electronically with the focus motor. As I mentioned, its speed is adjustable. Pleasingly, as you can see here, the lens doesn't really exhibit any breathing as you focus in and out. Just in front of that comes the spring-loaded focus preset ring. Turn it left or right to go to your focus presets, or it can be used for the power focus feature too. One of the most important features on a lens with a focal length like this is image stabilization. Here's some footage with stabilization turned off and now turned on. As you can see, the stabilization makes a big difference here, enabling you to shoot handheld with shutter speeds as low as about 100th or even 1/50th of a second. Here I am using it again on the EOS R3 to get some extreme handheld portrait shots of my wife, leaving us with incredible background compression. On a 1200mm lens, image stabilization like this is a huge achievement, although for steady video work, you will want a tripod, of course. The lens offers you Canon's 3 common stabilization modes here: Mode 1 for general use, Mode 2 for panning, and Mode 3 kicks the stabilizer in only when you take the shot, which can be useful if you're trying to follow an erratic subject. The lens comes with a generously sized hood, which is fairly lightweight, and the lens cap fits directly onto it. It's made of firmly padded nylon, and it's fairly quick to take on and off. This lens does not have one of Canon's customizable control rings for adjusting your aperture and other settings. It does, however, come with a decent quality case for relatively easy transportation. If you remove a layer of padding from the bottom of it, then the case has a little extra space at the top for attaching a camera, but there won't be enough room for a larger camera in there, like the EOS R3. My R5 here is a tight fit, as you can see. Overall though, well, the quality is exactly what you'd expect here, excellent, as Canon have been revising and perfecting the design of their super telephoto lenses for many years now. Okay, let's take a look at image quality. I'll start by mounting it onto a Canon EOS R3 camera with its full-frame 24-megapixel sensor. In-camera corrections are turned on. At f8, image quality in the middle is essentially perfect, plenty of resolution and contrast to be seen here. And it's the same story over in the corners, image quality all present and correct here. It's about as sharp stopped down to f11, but f16 will look softer due to the physical effects of diffraction. Okay, let's take a look at how it works on a more demanding 45-megapixel sensor of my Canon EOS R5. At f8, image quality is still great, but not quite perfect. It doesn't have that edge of razor sharpness and contrast that you'd see in other Canon L super telephoto lenses, but still, this is a great result. Loads of detail is being captured. You should also remember that even at f8, on a 45-megapixel camera, the effects of diffraction are already kicking in and naturally robbing us of a little sharpness. Over in the image corners, sharpness is virtually as good, perhaps just a touch softer in the very edges. As if to prove my point that diffraction is an issue even at f8, at f11 the image is a bit softer and f16 looks rather soft now. Should we complain about this kind of image quality on a $20,000 lens? Actually, I don't think so at all. You must remember that any lens with an aperture of f8 will be a little limited by diffraction on a high-resolution camera, and the sharpness you're getting here is still much better than sticking a regular 2x teleconverter onto even the sharpest 600mm lens. So this is still the sharpest image you'll ever be able to get at such an incredible focal length beyond 1000mm. By the way, you might be wondering why I'm not testing this lens with extenders also, or with an APS-C camera. I was disappointed not to be able to actually, but the simple reason is that I didn't have access to an outdoor space long enough for the tests. 1200mm really is a very long way away indeed. Let's turn off those in-camera corrections now and look at distortion and vignetting. Do you want the good news or the good news? There is no realistically discernible distortion or vignetting visible from this lens at all. The optical design of the lens means that it's naturally able to focus very closely to your subject. Even with a minimum focus distance of 4.3 meters, you're still getting great magnification here. At those close distances, image quality seems just a tiny bit softer with slightly lower contrast. As you can see here, the lens encounters no serious problems when working against bright lights. When it comes to out-of-focus backgrounds, while a maximum aperture of f8 might not sound that bright here at first, remember we're shooting at 1200mm. f8 at that focal length will offer you the most diffused backgrounds it's possible to get in any commercially available camera lens, so don't worry about background separation here, whatever you do. Considering the difficulty of backgrounds made of bare winter tree branches in some of these images, the lens coped perfectly well, I think, and I didn't notice much in the way of cat's eye shaped specular highlights in image corners either, leading to a very even looking out of focus background. Well then, overall, what do you think? Is this thing a practical lens or simply a quixotic fantasy for people with more money than sense? Well, whether you should pay $20,000 for it is really much more of a question of your personal morality than the lens's value for money. My mother would kill me if I ever spent that much on a camera lens. She'd chase me around the house with a broom. But the truth is that I had the time of my life testing out this monster of a camera lens. There is simply nothing else in the world like it for bird and animal photography. There is no other way to get this kind of image sharpness at such a crazy focal length beyond 1000mm, and the lens's excellent autofocus and image stabilization make even handheld shooting fantastically manageable. The animal eye detection on the R3 and my R5 cameras I tested it on, as well as their great image quality at high ISOs, makes capturing stunning images a breeze. Well, if you can find them in your frame at such a tight focal length. If you can get over the hit on your credit card, or if you're hiring it out for a few days for a special job, then it comes highly recommended. You know what? Normally these extreme lenses are kind of a pain for me to test out, but because of this thing's fairly lightweight, my only problem was finding somewhere expansive enough to take the test chart pictures. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this review, and if you find yourself watching my videos often, then check out my Patreon page in the description below, where supporters of this channel get all kinds of exclusive bonus content and help to ensure that I can actually afford to keep these tests going. Ciao for now, everybody.